Look, nobody's excited about the Florida Gators quarterback position, but it is crucial to the team finding success. We're going to take a look at it here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm dealing with stuff again. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And now we need to talk about the Florida Gators quarterback room right now because there is kind of a battle, or at least right now, publicly, there's going to be a battle between Graham Mertz and Jack Miller III. And what we'll talk about we know that Graham Mertz right now is the obvious favorite. We'll talk about why that is. But when you just look at this battle from the outside in, it's Graham Mertz or Jack Miller III. Graham Mertz is obviously the more experienced option, 3-year starter at Wisconsin, used to be a high-rated recruit. He was the highest-ranked quarterback to ever commit to Wisconsin. And then he went to what I think is the worst offense in the country. Like, I would rather be in a triple option offense than what Wisconsin is doing, because as good as Braylon Allen is and as good as all of the running backs that come and go from Wisconsin are, yikes, if you're a quarterback, it is not a place that's going to set you up to succeed. And that's a big thing with Graham Mertz, that his film's not amazing. His stats aren't amazing. But when you look at the further details, you can kind of tell that he was not given a chance to succeed. You look at, they ran the ball like 60% of the time, which is fine. I have no problem with running the ball 60% of the time. But when they threw the ball, they did not go play action. They went play action, I think it was like 20% of the time, or some insanely low number. Do you think that's the right strategy? Do you think that's the right approach when you run the ball 60% of the time, to go, all right, you know what we're going to do now when we do throw it? 3-step drop, baby. No. You have to make the defense respect you. Like, they respect your run game. We know that because everyone respects the Wisconsin run game. If you run play action with it, you make them respect you. You make them respect the offense. And if they don't respect the passing game when you run play action and they bite in on the run, bye-bye, like big play. So that alone would have made Wisconsin a much more dynamic offense with just, hey, fake the handoff and then throw it instead of 3-step drop slant, 3-step drop dig, 3-step drop out route, whatever nonsense they wanted to run. That's, high school quality, like high school caliber. It's rough. Then you look at Jack Miller, and he's the more athletic option. Neither of them are great athletes, but he's the more athletic option, less experienced option. He has one start in his college career, and I've said it a billion times. You take that film from Oregon State and you light it on fire for Jack Miller, because he was not put in position to succeed there. And even if he was put in position to succeed, he probably wouldn't have. And by that, I mean, he wasn't put in position to succeed by Billy Napier. Okay? I think that the Oregon State game was probably the second worst coached game of the season for the Florida Gators. I think the first one is Vanderbilt. That one was just a complete and utter failure. Although I will say the Oregon State game is the worst called game by Billy Napier. The Vanderbilt game was a failure on Billy Napier's part for not having them ready for it, not getting them fired up for it, just letting them come out and be lackadaisical. Like, oh, it's Vandy. But the bowl game was just bad. Like, Jack Miller, again, it's important to remember, Jack Miller got hurt before the season, got thumb surgery, was not available for the entirety of the season until the bowl game. Also, the Florida Gators, like Billy Napier was very open with, we want to get a late bowl game so we can get those extra practices in. We can learn more about our team and get guys ready to participate. They did not get a late bowl game. They got one of the earliest bowl games. So they didn't get to work with that either. Like, I'm not even talking about, the O-line that wasn't here because Osiris Torrance didn't play in it. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm not talking about the guys who weren't here. I'm talking about the players like Jack Miller, who did not get to practice for the entire season until that bowl game. And even then, because it was a thumb. It was the thumb in his throwing hand. You can't grip a football. You can't practice throwing the football. So Jack Miller had none of the chemistry with his pass catchers. Jack Miller had no command of the pocket because they're not simulating, hey, Jack, just be there, and we're going to waste offensive snaps with you just learning how to command this offense. No, that's not what happened. So that's why you burn it. And also, as far as Billy Napier's play calling goes, Oregon State was the worst game we saw from him. It was so simple and so dumbed down, and I get it because you were very limited. So I understand that. Does not mean that you couldn't have done a better job if you're Napier. So that's why that for me, Oregon State was the worst called game for the Gators the entire season. And it was the second worst coaching job of the entire season. Jack Miller, he has the skill set to operate this offense fine. Just know that. He can work underneath. He's mobile enough to be a threat, or not even to be a threat, because I don't want him to be a threat. I want him to just be able to take the handoff and pick up a few yards, pick up a first down. That's it. Just get me 4 or 5 yards on a 3rd and 3. That's all I need you to do. I don't need the quarterback to run 80 yards. I don't need the quarterback to run for 60-yard touchdowns. I don't need that. Just need the quarterback to be a threat, at least with his legs. And I think Jack Miller is better at that than Graham Mertz, but also Graham Mertz has more command, more experience. I think he's more accurate. So, yeah, I think that when you look at this battle, you understand why there's a battle. Both of these guys have the skill set to run Billy Napier's offense the way that he wants it run. It's just a matter of if they actually put it together. And I think Graham Mertz wins it. And I'll tell you why in a second. First, today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by LinkedIn, because these days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. With simple tools like screening questions, makes it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors for that same reason. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, like I mentioned, Graham Mertz versus Jack Miller. We know that right now the favorite is Graham Mertz. Nothing's been officially announced yet, although at SEC Media Days, which we will talk about later also, at SEC Media Days, Billy Napier was like, yeah, Graham Mertz has the skill set to operate our offense. He can do this, he can do that. He spoke specifically about Graham Mertz there. And like everyone else on the face of the planet, I think Graham Mertz will win the battle, and I think he'll win it pretty handedly. But for me, it's not about the arm. It's not about the potential running ability, obviously. For me, I think the experience is what's really going to win out here. Not just experience because, he's been a starter for 3 years, but he's been a starting quarterback for 3 years that's had to operate an offense as successfully as the scheme will allow him to. I think having that command over the offense gives him that leg up over Miller. I think that command over an offense will give him the win over Jack Miller III. You have to go with somebody that you think can command this offense and just not lose you games. And I think that's the most important part here. Graham Mertz has had his fair share of rough turnovers at inopportune times. Just questionable decisions, whether they led to turnovers or not. But I think just having that stabilizing force under center is enough to make Billy Napier and this coaching staff go, okay, Graham Mertz is the guy. It's also important to note that Graham Mertz did not come to Florida to be a backup quarterback. Okay. And Florida didn't bring in Graham Mertz to be a backup quarterback. If Florida viewed Graham Mertz as a backup quarterback, they would have just waited in the transfer portal for someone that they think had starter ability. Okay. And Graham Mertz, if he didn't think he was coming to Florida to be the starting quarterback, he probably would have waited in the transfer portal for a team that would start him. Okay, so Graham Mertz is coming here to be the starting quarterback for the Florida Gators. That's the big expectation there. But I think that a big part of it is just this coaching staff has faith in him. I can't say that they don't have faith in Jack Miller III. I can say that I know they have faith in Graham Mertz. They took their time with everything as far as announcing who's going to be the starting quarterback. But you look at spring ball, Graham Mertz had way more of the first team reps. You look at the spring game, Graham Mertz had a better game in what was rough for the offense, both sides. Okay? But Graham Mertz will win the game, I think, or will win the battle, I think, mostly for his ability to kind of stabilize the offense. Because don't forget, this is also an offense where starting receivers going to be new. Ricky Pearsall is the only returning starting receiver. Justin Shorter's with the Bills. Xavier Henderson's at Cincinnati, which, we'll just overlook that one. Okay. Tight end, Dante Sanders is back as a starter. Keon Zipper is out for likely the entire season. Not going to have Zip. New starting tight end. Running backs are returning. Offensive line, you've got Kingsley Aguakin at center back, and you've got Austin Barber back. And even then, Austin Barber was not a full-time starter last year. This is going to be an offensive line that's probably going to go through some struggles. I feel like you can't have it be an offensive line that's struggling with probably communication or consistency, and also have a quarterback that's not going to be able to command them, because that's what they'll need. The offensive line is going to need a leader. The offense is going to need a leader. I think Graham Mertz can do that. I think Graham Mertz has shown that he can make quick enough decisions where he can operate that RPO game. He can work the quick game, because, again, Billy Napier, historically, doesn't need his quarterbacks to carry his offense. Last year, Anthony Richardson did kind of carry the offense. He also held it back in some other ways. But typically, Billy Napier has not needed elite quarterback play to win games. He wants to run the ball. He wants to kill the clock. He wants to play sound defense and win the game that way. That's what they can do with Graham Mertz as the starting quarterback. You just need to be Trent Dilfer with the Ravens when they won the Super Bowl in 2001. Just don't screw it up. All they need you to do, just don't mess it up for everybody else. And I think Graham Mertz is capable of doing that. I think Graham Mertz is capable of just being the guy where it's like, hey, we don't need these massive deep pass touchdowns. They'd be nice if you could do it. But for the most part, we just need you to be able to convert first downs when the run game isn't working. We just need you to threaten and make defenses respect our passing game. Which, again, I think Graham Mertz is going to be significantly better in Florida than he was at Wisconsin. And I think a big part of that is just he's going to be working in a friendlier scheme. He's going to be working more pistol, more shotgun, more play action. He's going to be given the freedom to make decisions other than hand the ball off. Cool. So I think that that's a big reason Graham Mertz should be the favorite and why he will be the starting quarterback for the Florida Gators in 2023. Simple as that. There is one more guy that I did want to touch on, though, because at SEC Media Days last week, a week from today, Billy Napier was asked about quarterbacks. He specifically mentioned one guy, Max Brown, unsolicited, like he was asked about quarterbacks, he brought up Max Brown. He brought up Max Brown as someone who has impressed the coaching staff. His development's been great. He's been working. He's been improving. And I jokingly tweeted about Billy Napier mentioning him, being like, "Oh, he's starting quarterback." I don't think Max Brown has a legitimate shot at starting this season, but that's this season. I think it's basically guaranteed that it's Graham Mertz. However, Napier praising Max Brown when he wasn't asked about Max Brown, I think that does go to show that Max has genuinely been impressing. Because there's no reason to just bring up Max Brown. No one thought you were going to do that when talking about a quarterback. No one thought you were going to be like, Max Brown's been impressing. So I think that Napier saying that is genuine. And I think that it should at least give us a sign that this coaching staff at least somewhat believes in Max Brown. Like he could be a starting candidate in 2024. Because I know DJ Lagway is the big fish coming in for 2024. He's going to say that. However, Graham Mertz has a second year of eligibility in Florida, so he can be in Gainesville for 2 years. If this year doesn't work out for him the way he was hoping to, he could probably come back in 2024 and be the early favorite to start. If he does leave, then that opens the door up even more for Max Brown. And this isn't me campaigning for Max Brown to be the starting quarterback. However, I will say Max Brown has the mobility or just the athletic ability that no other quarterback on this roster has in Gainesville. Max Brown has a stronger arm than every quarterback on this roster. He's less accurate than most of these quarterbacks. He's more turnover prone, we'll say, because he's a bit of a gunslinger style. But he's still very much someone who has those raw tools to be great. Okay, he's someone who, he's going to give you a headache with some things, like Anthony Richardson did. And this is not to compare Max Brown to Anthony Richardson, but it is to say that he's a physical. He's a great athlete with a big arm, and he's been impressing with this coaching staff. And also, when Max Brown came in from Tulsa, he was initially committed to Central Michigan under Jim McElwain, who, say what you want about Jim McElwain, pretty solid job with quarterbacks, or a pretty solid reputation there. As far as play-wise goes. But I think that Max Brown is someone that was overlooked in his recruiting. I remember when he committed, I watched this film and I was like, okay, I don't know why this kid was a 3-star. I get it. Weaker competition. Offensive scheme as far as transitioning to college. But he's still someone who does have all the physical tools to be a successful starting quarterback at the SEC level. I understand 3-star quarterbacks in their third year, not usually your prime candidate for leading an offense. However, I do think that Max Brown has the physical skill set. And again, he is not going to be a starting quarterback candidate this year. I firmly believe he's not even in the discussion for this year. However, another year in this offense, another year working with these pass catchers and developing as a passer, I think you're looking at someone who 100% will and should be in the conversation for 2024. Yes, DJ Lagway's coming in. Yes, Graham Mertz has another year of eligibility. Yes, Jack Miller III has another year of eligibility. However, Jack Miller's been unable to separate. Graham Mertz could go to the NFL. He could transfer again if he wanted to, which I don't think is going to happen. He could lose the starting quarterback battle. DJ Lagway, love him. Think he's going to be great. I am hesitant to go true freshman quarterback. That should be our starter for 2024. I'm very hesitant to do that. So I think Max Brown is someone that, again, I don't think he's someone this year that we should be looking at, but get ready to hear his name next year in spring ball, because I promise you he's going to be in that conversation once 2024 hits, until he's no longer in Gainesville. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free. Wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow to talk recruiting with Brian Smith. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I will see you all